I discovered the sinister rules of a haunted radio station during my terrifying night shift. Jake pushed open the creaky door of the deserted radio station, the sound echoing like a warning through the empty hallways. A chill ran down his spine. The air was thick, laced with the smell of decay and dust that had settled like an ominous blanket over everything. The flickering lights cast ethereal shadows that danced menacingly on the rusty old equipment. He inhaled deeply, his heart racing. This was not just a job. This felt like walking into a graveyard of forgotten dreams. The station's lobby was dim, with cobwebs hanging disdainfully from the corners, an uninvited reminder of the years that had slipped by. Though this was supposed to be a lifeline, a chance to pay off overdue bills, he couldn't shake the feeling that something malevolent was waiting for him. It was just an old radio station, he told himself, a job like any other. But when he heard faint rustling and distant whispers that sent shivers crawling up his arms, he felt a profound sense of dread settle into the pit of his stomach. With every step he took, the floorboards creaked beneath him like bones protesting underfoot. He reluctantly approached the receptionist's desk, where a dull glow emanated from a desk lamp that flickered sporadically. When he noticed the locked drawer calling out to him. Curiosity gnawed at him like a rat. With trembling hands, he jimmied it open, heart thumping with every second. The secrets whispered from the dusty pages inside were unsettling. Rituals designed to ward off the evil spirits that supposedly plagued this forsaken place. Families gone missing, chilling warnings scrawled in frantic handwriting. It was a history of horror that sent his pulse into a frenzied race. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the clock struck midnight, a heavy weight of silence enveloped him. The radio console suddenly crackled to life with static and distorted voices. A chorus of ghastly whispers rose and fell, wrapping around Jake like a noose. His phone buzzed violently in his pocket. Quaking with uncertainty, he pulled it out, Mia's name flashing on the screen. He answered, heart racing, half expecting her bubbly voice. Instead, a chilling echo slipped through the phone line, sending ice through his veins. Daddy, I'm scared. Panic exploded in his chest. Confusion and terror clawed within him. How could she be scared? How could she even be calling him from home? Time twisted around him as the whispers multiplied, a cacophony of dark promises and muffled cries clawing at his sanity. Shadows stretched longer, flickering just beyond his line of sight. Jake's instincts screamed for him to run, to throw himself into the night and get back to Mia. But the station was holding him captive, testing his resolve. The air grew denser, making every breath a struggle. He had to get out, but the malevolent energy around him thickened. Where was this darkness coming from? Suddenly, he realized that the evil within these walls seeped out into the town that enfolded it. Desperation burned in his chest as he grasped the very real possibility that his childhood friend, the town's esteemed mayor, had more to do with this horror than he had ever suspected. The pieces of the puzzle, a puzzle smeared with betrayal, fear, and the shadow of laughter in the dark, were starting to descend into a horrific truth. His thoughts raced. Every second was ticking away, cornering him in a nightmare. Jake took a deep breath, heart pounding like thunder in his ears. Would he have the courage to confront the evil away from home? Or could he leave, abandoning Mia to whatever horror lurked behind their door? With fear clawing at his throat, he felt the question pulse like a heartbeat. Will I save my daughter before it's too late? The static from the radio console crackled, and with it came a sinister rhythm that seemed to pull Jake closer, enticing and repelling him simultaneously. It was like a siren's song echoing through haunted halls, every whispered syllable grinding his nerves to dust. He couldn't linger. His daughter's voice lingered in his ears, echoing on repeat while shadows shifted just beyond his peripheral vision. Jake's mind spun as he weighed his options. Going home without a plan was spiraling into darkness. Facing whatever danger hovered in the radio station was just as terrifying. A deep breath was all he could manage, even as a sense of foreboding wrapped itself around him, squeezing tighter with each passing moment. Then, another voice joined the static, a deeper, throaty whisper that slithered through the air, sending chills down his spine. "Protect her. Join us," it murmured, and Jake's pulse raced. Was that a command or a plea? Fear stripped away his resolve. Driven by instinct, he stumbled towards the door, but the scent of decay thickened, almost tangible, wrapping around his legs. The floor shook slightly beneath him, as if the building itself was alive and angry. With a shaky hand, he turned the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. The door felt like it was alive, refusing to let him leave. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. "Mia!" he screamed, but the echoes swallowed his voice whole. He spun back, heart hammering. The radio console flickered again, and the shadows in the corners darkened, inching closer. The once faint whispers crescendoed, forming a chilling multitude of voices, chanting ominous words he couldn't decipher. Each phrase felt like a hook piercing his skin, dragging him deeper into despair. "Stay with us. Forever." Jake dashed to the office, desperate to find anything to help him break the station's grasp. He rifled through drawers, papers stained with age and darkness catching the lights beneath the flickering bulb. He stumbled across an old microphone, still pristine against the decay that surrounded it. Before he could think, he lifted it to his lips, perhaps hoping to drown out the sinister noise. "Get away from me!" A pulse of energy crackled across the air as his words resonated. The room quaked, and for a brief moment, the shadows wavered, revealing fleeting glimpses of spectral figures' faces twisted in rage, despair, longing. Jake staggered back, disgusted yet transfixed. Then the power surged back, knocking Jake off balance. He grasped the desk to steady himself, his mind racing. There was an understanding now. The station fed on pain, on fear. But how did it tie back to home? The mayor's influence nagged at his thoughts. How far-reaching was this horror? "Mia, I have to get home," he shouted, forcing down the rising tide of panic. The whispers laughed. Each sound felt like nails against the wooden frame of his sanity, splintering his resolve. Suddenly, the radio blared to life, drowning out every other sound. A hellish cacophony. "The mayor wants you. Come join the gathering." A wave of distorted laughter twisted through his bones. Chills rippled through him. He realized he wasn't alone in this fight. Something was coming to claim him. Right here. Jake stumbled back towards the door, a primal scream bubbling at the back of his throat as realization struck him like a lightning bolt. The whispers had names. They were the lost. They were the people never spoken of. The town was buried under layers of blood and cover-ups. He pushed against the door one last time, defiance igniting within him. It swung open with a groan that resonated with both fury and relief. But what awaited him outside? Would hell follow him into the night? He needed to find Mia. But would he return to save her, or was the darkness stalking him ready to claim them both? With trembling hands gripping the door frame, Jake stepped outside only to find the shadows waiting, lined up like an audience. The chill in the air deepened. As they moved closer, one thing became clear: no matter what he did, the real horror had just begun. What waited in the darkness beyond the radio station? Would he have the strength to face the truth? The shadows whispered, unfurling like black smoke, their outlines indistinct yet discernible in the dim light of the street lamp. Jake's heart raced, pounding in his chest loud enough to drown out the growing cacophony behind him. He was outside now, but the air felt thick, almost alive, swirling around him as the darkness condensed into dreadful forms. "Stay with us," they whispered, their voices sinking deeper into his mind, each word like a thorn. Panic surged. He stumbled back, grasping for the rough brick wall. The cool surface offered some grounding against the weight of terror pressing down, an anchor in a storm of shadows. "Mia!" he shouted again, this time his voice raw with desperation. He could almost hear her laughter, a bright memory that clashed violently with the horror encroaching upon him. The sweet innocence of her smile felt like a ghost in his mind, locking him in battle against the encroaching darkness. His fingers gripped the wall tighter as he peered into the night, straining to see past the writhing shapes that surrounded him. The fleeting glow of the radio station flickered in his periphery like a dying star. What had he awakened there? Every second he stood still felt like a countdown to an inevitable horror. The shadowy figures shimmered and danced, moving closer, revealing ghastly details, twisted faces set in expressions of rage, sorrow, and longing. They were a collective memory of lost souls. Bound to the very ground he stood on, Jake's instincts screamed at him to run. He dashed toward the parking lot, the gravel crunching beneath his feet sounding like whispers arguing, pleading, mocking. You can't run. You're part of us now. He stumbled into his car, heart racing as he fumbled with the keys. The engine roared to life, an echo against the haunting symphony around him. He glanced back, and the shadows had paused, watching, waiting. Their forms blurred the line between past and present, and he felt their aching history grip his soul. Get out of here, he muttered under his breath, the engine growling like a trapped beast. He slammed the gear shifter into drive, his gut churning with urgency. As he swung onto the main road, the shadows shrank back, but not before he caught the glint of hollow eyes staring through the darkness. He raced past the town's limits, heart pounding, struggling against the feeling of being pursued. Was it just his imagination, or did he hear them calling again? Join us, they seduced, voices wrapping around him like a vice. Get home, he thought fiercely, repeating Mia's name like a prayer. If only he could get home, everything would be all right. But the road blurred in front of him, and the static from the radio flooded back to him, filling the car's interior. It crackled ominously, each sound piercing through his defense with a foreboding promise. Turn back, the radio cooed, the voice dropping an octave, twisting into a refrain of all the fears he buried. You can't escape, he gritted his teeth, fingers clutching the steering wheel as adrenaline coursed through his veins. The hum of the radio deepened, distorting into echoes of laughter, mingling with anguished cries. Each sound crashed against him, a relentless tide dragging him back toward the darkness he tried so desperately to flee. Then, a figure appeared on the roadside, Mia, standing alone in the flickering light of the street lamp, her hair billowing softly in the wind. Jake's breath caught in his throat, and all thoughts of danger evaporated. Mia! He screamed, slamming on the brakes. He jumped out, the gravel crunching beneath his feet, terror morphing into frantic joy. But as he approached, the smile faded. Something was wrong. Her eyes were dark, void of any warmth. She looked past him, staring back into the trees, almost as if she were waiting for something to come. What did you do? He breathed, fear narrowing his vision as the shadows around them began to swirl again, deeper and darker. A piercing laughter sliced through the air. You thought you could just leave? Jake felt a chill encapsulate him, the shadows closing in from all directions. His mind reeled with the horrifying truth this was all connected. A web of darkness strung tight around the town, and Mia was at the very center of it. What are you? He stammered, feeling his knees weaken. The laughter grew louder, echoing a sinister truth he had yet to accept. The revelations were just beginning, each shadow coiling tighter around them. As he reached out for Mia, the air crackled with danger, whispering promises of inevitable doom. What would it mean to lose her to this darkness? What more awaited them beneath the besieging terror of the night? Mia! Jake's voice trembled, choked by the icy grip of the shadows enveloping them. He reached out, fingers brushing against her arm, hoping for warmth, for an echo of the girl he once knew. But the connection felt hollow as she turned her gaze away, lost in the depths of the encroaching darkness. Join us, the chorus of whispers circled them, a sickening lullaby resonating in his ears. He could feel the void pulling at his heart, a magnetic force promising an end to the chaos around him. Fear wrapped around him like a noose, tightening with each passing moment. Mia, please, talk to me. The urgency in his voice was met with silence. A chill danced down his spine, turning his breath into clouds of frozen vapor. He stepped closer. The shadows seemed to caress him, testing his resolve. Could she hear him? Did she even want to? Suddenly, a beam of light flashed from the dark trees behind her. Squinting, Jake could make out twisted shapes lurking, their forms flickering like the static-filled images of a malfunctioning television. He hated that he felt drawn toward them, like a moth to a flame. "I'm scared," Mia finally whispered, her voice cracking. "It's all around us, Jake. We have to go back, what?" "No." He shook his head violently. "That's what they want. We need to get out of here." Panic surged within him, a pounding rhythm echoing in his temples. "I love you, Mia. We can fight this." Her expression faltered, a flicker of recognition passing through her darkened eyes. But just as quickly, the shadows seemed to pull at her, reminding her of the dread woven into her very being. She shivered, and tiny flecks of light flickered in the corners of the street lamp's glow. "Stay with us," the relenting whispers poured from every direction, a siren song luring him down into despair. "Go away," Jake screamed, pushing against the invisible barrier squeezing his chest. He turned to observe the trees, shadows shifting like a wave breaking against the shore. "I won't let you take her." But the grove seemed to breathe with malicious intent, its branches reaching out like skeletal hands. They stretched towards Jake's mind as if wanting to root themselves in his thoughts. "There is nowhere to run," Mia said softly, her voice a ghostly echo. "I can feel them, they're part of me now." Her smile was sad, tinged with darkness. "They help me remember who I was." No, those words sliced through him, ice penetrating his core. It echoed like a death knell, binding them to this nightmarish web. He grabbed her shoulders, searching her face for any sign of the Mia he loved. "We need to be together. We can make it through this. Please." The shadows inhaled, curling inward, dripping with malice and a tainted past. The laughter returned, sharp and shrill, clawing at his sanity. "You can't save her," they chanted, their voices merging into a horrifying unison. Jake lurched backwards, his heart racing as the darkness swirled closer. "Get back," he shouted. A primal scream erupted within him, echoing through the suffocating void. "Help me," Mia cried, her arms reaching for him as more shadows closed in, wrapping her in a shroud of despair. Time twisted around him, seconds feeling like hours. Breathless, he took a step forward, fearing the growing abyss, but knowing he couldn't lose her to this nightmare. His fingers brushed against her skin. It was icy. "Mia." And then, everything went dark as he opened his eyes, finding himself back at the radio station. The needle stuck ominously between channels, crackling with interference. He was drenched in sweat, heart pounding against his ribs, the echoes of that haunted night still rattling in his mind. But as he rose, glancing around the room, he realized something was terribly wrong. The antique radio sat eerily silent, yet the hairs on the back of his neck stood straight. He could feel their eyes upon him again, watching him through the darkness from the corners of the room. "What did you do?" The whisper clawed at his sanity once more, pulling him toward the door. He needed to get out, but a flicker of movement halted him. A shadow loomed in the corner, shapeless yet distinctly human. Before he could adjust his gaze, it lunged at him, a dark specter with hollow eyes and a grin so wide it split the darkness around it. "Stay with us," it hissed, eternally hungry for despair. And Jake knew terrifyingly, he wasn't alone. Not anymore. But what awaited him when he stepped into the night outside? Would he find Mia, or merely descend into the very depths he'd fought so hard to escape? Jake's heart raced, a throbbing drum echoing in his ears. The specter's grin widened, revealing teeth that glinted in the dim light like shards of glass. He felt paralyzed, the air thick with an oppressive weight that wrapped around him. His thoughts tumbled in chaos. What was this thing? Was it a ghost? A demon? He swayed back, searching for an escape, but the walls of the station felt like they were closing in, quaking with malevolent energy. The whispers returned, louder now, swirling with malicious glee. Join us, you belong to us now, no. Get away. Jake lunged to the side, stumbling, his foot snagging on a loose cable. He fell hard, fear tearing through him like a wild river. Crawling, he reached the door, desperation surging through his limbs. He burst outside, gasping for breath, the frigid night air slapping him awake. But as he looked around, dread settled in his stomach. The familiar parking lot lay shrouded in darkness, the comforting glow of street lamps missing. The night was utterly still, except for the rustle of leaves whispering secrets he couldn't understand. Mia, he shouted, the sound swallowed by the emptiness. He moved cautiously, a chill crawling up his spine as he ventured deeper into the shadows. The trees loomed like sentinels, their branches like twisted fingers waiting to snatch him away. Then he heard a faint melody, a lullaby resonating from the grove nearby. The hair on the back of his neck bristled. It was the same tune from before, the one that wrapped around him like a fog. Drawing closer, it called out to him with a hypnotic pull. Mia? He approached the source, each step heavy and tethered to dread. Light flickered through the branches, a hum that seemed all too inviting. He hesitated just before the line of trees, glancing back at the station, torn between safety and the haunting melody. Help me! A whisper ghosted through the trees, fragile like a snowflake. It was definitely Mia's voice. But could he trust it? Fear gnawed at his insides. The last time he had chased a sound, darkness had consumed him. Yet, the pull was undeniable. His longing for Mia fought against reason. Without thinking, he plunged into the grove, branches slapping against him like angry hands. Shadows danced in his vision. The air was thick, pregnant with tension. He could almost feel the darkness breathing, watching him. Stay with us echoed from beyond, echoing Mia's last words before the shadows claimed her. He pressed on, heart hammering, a silent war raging in his mind. What if he was too late? What if she had become one of them? Suddenly, a shriek pierced the air, like a blade through the silence. It wasn't just echoes anymore. The screams were coming from somewhere inside the grove. Jake! It called, the voice cracking like thunder, layered with desperation. A sudden burst of clarity hit him as he ran deeper. The trees here felt alive, writhing and whispering secrets he couldn't decipher. I love you, Mia. The words flew from his lips. A glimmer of light flickered up ahead, like a beacon slicing through the blackness. Hope ignited in his chest, a vision of Mia waiting, captured by the light. However, as he approached, that light began to twist and flicker, revealing dark shapes fluttering in its illumination. The figures seemed to writhe, flickering in and out of focus, some with hollow eyes like the specter before. Their faces contorted, an array of tortured expressions reflecting 1,000 lost souls. Join us, they whispered in eerie unison, their voices dripping with an ominous promise. A shudder of terror coursed through him as he realized he had walked into their lair. The shadows lunged, closing in from all sides. Instinct kicked in. Jake turned to run, but tripped over roots that seemed to reach for him, pulling him into the soil. Desperation flooded every fiber of his being as he scrambled to his feet. But the shadows were too fast, too hungry. I won't give in, he shouted, his voice echoing as he wrestled against their pull. In that moment he felt a piercing pain in his heart, like a reminder of what he stood to lose. Mia! He screamed one last time, as darkness swallowed all light, and then he was gone. But where had he gone? Had he joined them, or was it merely another shadow in the never-ending night? Would he become a part of the chilling whispers, or could he still wrestle free? The answers waited just beyond the veil. A new nightmare began to sneak into the spaces of his mind. Jake blinked, a harsh stinging sensation in his eyes forcing him into consciousness. He lay sprawled on the ground, the damp earth cool against his skin. His breath came in frantic gasps as he pushed himself up, shaking away the remnants of dizzying shadows. The trees around him swayed gently, but their whispers had quieted. For a moment he thought he might have escaped. He stumbled to his knees, heart racing, scanning for any sign of the specters. Mia! His voice broke through the stillness, trembling with desperation. Silence hung heavy, almost palpable, wrapping around him like frost. Where was she? Panic surged again. He couldn't let the darkness win. Shuffling to his feet, he took in the strange grove. Twisted branches clawed at the sky while warped roots snaked across the ground like fingers reaching for wayward souls. His instincts screamed at him to back away, but his need for Mia propelled him forward. His pulse pounded in his ears. The air felt charged, as if something was watching him. He pressed on, following an instinct he couldn't explain, hoping to find her. After a few steps, he noticed a shimmering light amidst the trees, faint but alluring. It flickered. A beacon? He reasoned it could lead to her. Mia! The word echoed, hollow in the darkness. He moved closer, trepidation gripping his heart. Each step amplified the weight of the moment. The gleam shimmered through the branches, and he felt drawn in, the connection burning hot like wildfire as he broke into the clearing. The light flickered brighter, illuminating the twisted forms of the creatures that had been beckoning him. Their faces loomed, contorted, as though caught between life and death, their mouths curling into grotesque smiles. "Delicious your presence warms us," one whispered, the sound slithering into his bones. "No, I can't be here," Jake shouted, spinning around to retreat, but the way he had come now twisted like a labyrinth, branches curling and blocking his exit. "Stay with us," Jake the dark chorus chanted, unknowable yearning lacing their words. "You know you want to." He clenched his fists, trying to block them out. Panic clawed through his throat. Each breath he took sent icy fingers down his spine. "Where is she? Where is Mia?" he yelled. Fury mingled with despair as the shadows closed in tighter. But their laughter danced around him like a malevolent storm. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, a flash. Was it her? A flicker of movement? Jake turned, seeing a shadow slip between the trees, something or someone desperately trying to escape from those lurking figures. Mia! He lunged forward instinctively, but as he did, the ground seemed to crack open beneath him, pulling him toward an abyss. "Join us!" The voices snarled, mixing with another voice a sweet melody he recognized. "Help me!" Mia's voice, shimmering and fading, pulled at him like a lifeline. "No, no, no!" He fought against the pull, desperation fueling him. He raced toward the flicker, determined to reach her. "Fight it, Jake! Come to me!" He reached out, but the shadows were relentless, grabbing at his ankles, dragging him backward into their embrace while Mia flickered in and out of sight. As he thrashed against the shadows, he caught a glimpse of her, her eyes full of fear and something else. Was it warning? Then, the melody distorted, twisting into a cacophony of anguish. "Jake!" And everything turned black again. When he awoke, he found himself back in the old radio station, a single light flickering overhead. The air was thick with an unnatural chill, and a familiar whisper snaked through the darkness. Welcome back. Could he escape again from this nightmare? Was Mia even real, or just another lost soul? The darkness chuckled softly, the shadows waiting, ready to consume him anew. And then came the answer he dreaded. "You're part of the broadcast now." What had he become? Would he ever find the truth about Mia and this haunted station? Or was he doomed to join the whispers forever? Jake squinted against the flickering light above, trying to piece together the fragments of his mind. The station felt more alive than ever, the walls pulsing as if they breathed, each corner alive with echoes of the past. Desperation clawed at him again. No time to waste. He needed to find Mia. The soft murmur returned, a chilling reminder of the shadows that had tried to pull him under. "You're part of the broadcast now," the voice mocked him, slithering through the darkened corners of the room. He slammed his palms against the cold, metallic surface of the control panel, willing the anguish to fade. "I can't be. I want tea," he shouted, his voice bouncing off the walls and mingling with the whispers. They danced around him, a cruel swarm of laughter, taunting him with the memories of everybody who had vanished here. Every face, Every scream replayed at the edge of his consciousness. With a surge of determination, he scanned the room. Broken records lay scattered like forgotten dreams, their melodies long lost to the wind. But one record stood upright, untouched, its surface gleaming with an eerie allure. Drawn to it, he walked over, heart pounding harder with every step as he lifted it. A cold wave of air rushed past him. He gasped, heart racing. He realized the music it played wasn't just any melody. It was the same haunting tune Mia had sung. He pressed the needle down, and the room filled with a chilling harmony, morphing into an almost tangible presence. Suddenly, the very walls of the station began to warp and twist. Shadows coiled around him, thick and alive, responding to the melody. They undulated like waves, drawing away from the sound, whispering incoherently. Mia's voice echoed alongside the music, intertwining, her fear palpable and mixed with something deeper, something he trusted. "Jake, find me, please." The urgency in her tone jolted him. He had to keep going, there had to be a way to break the cycle. He ripped the record from the player, desperation stirring his resolve. With each frantic step, he followed the echoes, the haunting melody guiding him through the labyrinthine halls of the station. Every door he opened led to snippets of lost souls, all trapped and tormented, shadows reflecting their frozen despair. Their fingers grasped at him as he moved past, eyes filled with a blend of hope and dread. They shouted for release but screamed in terror as if they knew the truth, there was no escape. Jake pressed forward, skimming his hand against the wall for balance, heart thumping. Suddenly, he stumbled into a room full of radio equipment, a graveyard of old memories. One console glimmered faintly, wires tangled like vines ready to ensnare him. "Mia!" he shouted again, voice breaking, raw with urgency. The shadows began to swirl more violently, almost as if they were alive, pulsing in rhythm with the music. He felt their cold fingers reaching for him, grasping him tighter, but he fought, clawing back against their hold. "Get away from me!" He stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of speakers, sending them crashing to the ground. The noise blasted through the air, cutting through the darkness. "Keep the noise coming, Jake!" A disembodied voice echoed from the shadows. "They hate it." A realization struck him. The music could either bind him to this place or set him free. His breath quickened as he turned back to the console, heart racing. He needed to amplify the sound, but something else lurked. Unseen hands whispered across his mind, hinting at terrible truths. The station throbbed with anticipation. What would happen if he played every last memory held within the records? Summoned every ghost that had come before? Would Mia return, or would he lose himself within the frantic waves of noise? The shadows beckoned, desperate to pull him back into their suffocating embrace. Uncertainty wrapped around him tighter than ever. He had a choice to make. Would he risk everything to unleash the dark memories and save Mia, or fall prey to the spell of oblivion? The choice loomed in front of him, thick as the darkness surrounding the room. And above it all, the whispers began again, sinister and sweet, joyous. Jake, what would he choose to do next? Jake's breath hitched as he stood frozen before the console, the shadows swarming around him, thickening the air with a suffocating dread. He could feel the whispers pulling at his mind, poking and prodding, trying to seep into his thoughts. "What if I jump in?" A voice echoed inside, enticing yet filled with malice. "What if I let it all in?" He shut his eyes tightly. This was not the time for second-guessing. He could still hear Mia calling for him, her tone laced with anxiety, and it pushed him. He opened his eyes, defiant. He could either let those memories engulf him or face the darkness head-on, without hesitating. He grabbed an old, cracked vinyl, a disc of memories, flipped it onto the turntable, and pressed it down. The instant he did, a cacophony erupted, washing over him with a violent rush. The music surged, ripping through the whispers like a knife. The shadows around him recoiled as if struck, and for a moment, he thought he'd found a weapon. He had never felt more alive as the sound enveloped him, the vibrations shaking the walls, rattling the foundations of the station. But the victory was fleeting. The walls screamed, The fabric of the station folded and twisted, grinding like bones. They began to shift, revealing gaping holes where the echoes of former lives lingered, their faces pleading for release. "You shouldn't have done that," a chorus cried in unison, the sound ricocheting off the walls, pounding into his skull. Jake faltered as the shadows morphed into what could only be described as monstrous creations, twisted versions of the souls he had seen. Hunger in their sunken eyes. Their mouths gaped wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth, echoing howls that sent shivers down his spine. "Mia!" he shouted again, louder this time, desperate not to lose her voice in the chaos. He struggled against the fear gripping his heart, but the shadows were closing in. They danced ominously, darting closer, closer. He could feel their cold breath breathing down his neck. Then he saw it through the veil of chaos. The familiar silhouette of Mia appeared for a fleeting instant. "Jake!" Her voice cut through the din crystal clear, but it cracked like glass, and before he could reach her, she was swallowed again by the immensity of shadows. "Stop! Stop it!" he screamed, the words clawing their way out through stammering breaths. The music swelled, yet it didn't drown out the shadows. Instead, it gave them power, feeding on his panic. He fought to regain control, fingers shaking as he flipped records frantically, each one a gamble with fate. "Let me in." Jake, the whispers turned seductive, a siren-esque call. "You can join us, be a part of the broadcast. No pain, just eternal song." He nearly succumbed, feeling the pull of their twisted promise. The shadows danced too enticingly, painting colors of despair and fleeting joy, showing him promises that felt real enough to touch. His heart raced, vision blurring as he lost focus. But in the haze, he remembered Mia's face, vivid and alive. He snapped back, fueled by a flickering hope. Desperation ignited within him, a fire ignited in the depths. This couldn't be the end. Jake ripped another record from the stack, not caring about the chaos around him. He slid it onto the turntable, and with trembling, fervent hands, he pressed the needle down harder than before. The station shook. As new music filled the air, something within the shadows began to scream their anguish, colliding with melodies that gathered the light. But that light was dimming, and he could feel the cold creeping faster, fingers clawing at him. With the last ounce of strength, he fought against the whispers, shouting Mia's name, hopeful to shatter this creeping madness. But the shadows surged again, and as they enveloped him, Jake could feel an unspeakable presence pressing closer, a dark truth buried deep that demanded attention. It was evolving, warping, something far more sinister than he could ever have anticipated. And in the pulse of chaos, a voice whispered, "The truth is coming. Jake, the truth will find you." What awaited him in the unnerving darkness now closing in? Would he be swallowed whole, or would he uncover what lay beneath the veil of the shadows? The shadows converged, swirling chaotically around Jake. The moment the music shifted, their screams harmonized with the new melody, reverberating through the station like a malignant choir. They twisted and turned, teasing the boundaries of weightlessness, as if they were dismantling the very fabric of existence. Jake's heart pounded violently in his chest. Panic clawed at him, yet he pressed on. The rhythm of the latest record seemed to disrupt the sinister ballet, allowing brief glimpses of clarity amid the terror. Each note resonated like a heartbeat, but it wouldn't hold back the shadows for long. The air thickened, becoming so heavy it felt like a weight pressing down on his lungs. "Mia, I'm coming," he gasped. He needed to find her, needed to break through the ever-widening maw of darkness that threatened to consume everything. The shadows grew restless, whispering secrets he didn't want to hear. "You're trapped here, just like us," they chanted, their voices slithering through his mind. "You are one with the station now." He stumbled backward, colliding with the familiar vibrations of the turntable. In a haze of fear, he fumbled through the remaining records, desperately searching for something that might help. He could feel the chill crawling up his spine. The shadows grew more insistent, demanding his surrender. "Listen to us, let us guide you," they coaxed. The temptation twisted in his gut. Memories of Mia surfaced, forcing him to focus. Moments of laughter and warmth surfaced against this wave of despair. She was alive, he could still reach her. A pulsing dread swallowed him. Jake fell to his knees, warmth flooding his face with tears. What were these memories worth if he lost her? He pressed his palms against the turntable, fighting the urge to give in. But then the music faded to a haunting silence, broken only by the shadows' jeering laughter. The force around him stilled, and in that chilling quiet, dread wrapped around him like a vice. Jake bit down on his lip, trying in vain to strangle the sobs threatening to escape. Something primal pushed him. He didn't know if it was survival instincts or pure desperation, but he began to hum an old tune he shared with Mia. The melody flowed from his lips, raw and potent against the silent specters, stoking a flicker of hope in his soul. And then, without warning, the shadows recoiled, hissing angrily. They thrashed against the walls, furious at the intrusion. The thin veil of silence shattered, and their whispers turned violent, accusing notes lashing out at him from everywhere. Jake whipped around, the shadows flickering just out of reach. "You cannot escape. You will join us." Fueled by the music in his heart, he snatched a record from the pile. This one, he sensed, held power. With trembling hands, he placed it on the turntable. The sonic vibrato pulsed through him, and he pressed down, feeling the shift in energy seep into his very bones. It felt like chaos but threaded with an underlying order, something alive, and it wanted to break free. The shadows shrieked, reeling from the sudden surge of sound. Faces twisted and contorted in agony, and then came a sickening realization. They weren't just shadows. They were remnants, echoes of the lost, souls trapped in despair, and Jake held the key to their salvation or destruction. His breaths came out in quick bursts. Could he really control this? Could he unleash them, or would they drag him down with them? "Jake!" A voice, clearer than the rest, broke through the malevolent clamor. It was Mia, her voice surfacing from the depths of the chaos. "Help me!" In that instant, he knew he had to decide to fight for Mia or to embrace a truth he could barely comprehend. The shadows lunged again, their talons outstretched, but behind them loomed a deeper darkness, vibrating with truth. It wouldn't be long before they took another step closer, and he was left with one question. Could music bridge the gap between despair and hope, or was it a pathway to his own doom? Jake's heart thundered as he fought against the swirling shadows, caught between the music of memory and the weight of despair. "Mia!" He screamed, searching frantically for her, anchoring himself to her voice as it echoed through the chaos. He pressed down harder on the turntable, adrenaline coursing through his veins, drowning out the haunting whispers that clawed at his mind. The shadows recoiled again, as if the very essence of his love was burning them away. He poured every ounce of his being into the sound, each note slicing through the darkness like a beacon of light. Faces' tormented souls flickered in the corners of his eyes, their desperate pleas melding into a cacophony. "Join us!" they screamed, longing to drag him into the abyss. "No!" Jake roared back, his determination surging. The weight of his memories built up within him, fueling a fire that would not be snuffed out. He visualized Mia's face, her laughter, their shared moments. They were the essence of life that cut through the dark like a knife. "You want to take me or her?" As he struck another record, it began to play, illuminating each corner of the room in a glow that pulsed with the rhythm of their happiness. The light forced the shadows back, angered and shrieking, pushing them to the edges. He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, feeling the warmth of hope ignite within, a vivid light igniting his path ahead. "Mia, I'm coming!" The shadows thrashed violently, blurring together, their forms indistinguishable as the melody swelled around him. For every note, he felt the darkness flicker in agony, contorting, their cries rising higher and higher until they shattered into echoes of despair, swirling like a storm around him. Suddenly, there was a break in the wall of shadows, an opening, a glimpse of light piercing through the surrounding gloom. Jake rushed toward it, propelled by a mix of instinct and love. He felt a presence move next to him, a touch not quite corporeal but undeniably real. A familiar warmth radiated through the cold. Mia, he called, his voice a desperate plea. Jake, came her response, clearer now, echoing through the dissonance. The shadows pulsed, creeping back as he closed in on the light. Then he saw her figure, lost between the shadows, but illuminated by a soft glow. As he ran forward, the shadows shrieked in a final assault, twisting around the fragile connection. Join us, they snarled in unison, grasping at his ankles, pulling him down as if to snatch him away. Never. With one final surge, he grabbed Mia's hand just as the light enveloped them. But the whispers surged, trying to rip them apart. They both slammed their eyes shut, clinging to each other, fighting through the swirling shadows. And then, all at once, the sound amplified into a crescendo, a harmony of their laughter encasing them, binding the shadows with purifying light. The darkness screamed and writhed, unable to handle the happiness radiating from their bond. With one last loud crack, the shadows splintered away, melting like ice under the sun. Jake and Mia stood on an empty street, the night still and quiet around them. The air felt cleansing, fresh. He looked around, heart racing, but he was finally free. Mia, he pulled her close, holding her tightly, feeling the warmth and the life pulsing inside her. You're okay. What happened? She asked softly, confusion lacing her voice. It doesn't matter. Jake smiled, relief flooding through him. We made it. Together. They stepped back and took a moment, the world around them breathing, the shadows of the radio station lingering in the background of their minds. Now simply a fading memory. Hand in hand, they moved toward home, the chill of the darkness behind them fading with each step. And as they walked into the early dawn light, one thought hung heavy in the air. They had survived the darkness together, and not just survived but emerged stronger, with laughter breaking the silence. Jake turned to Mia and said, "We'll never let these shadows take us again." As they disappeared into the glow of the morning sun, a whisper danced through. The remnants of the night, join us but this time. It was just that an echo fading away, drowned out by the light of hope. Today, they would reclaim their lives. But for you, this is not the end. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and show your support for the journey we've shared today. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this ending. What did you think happened to Jake and Mia? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how vital it is to support the channel through these actions. Let's keep the community alive and thriving.